Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're retaking a deep dive into the archives of one of the world's biggest automakers, General Motors. Now, GM has given us some truly iconic and beloved vehicles over the years, cars that have defined generations. But let's be honest, nobody's perfect. And a giant like GM has had its share of, well, let's call them learning experiences. So, we've sifted through the history books. We've looked at reliability reports, and we've listened to what owners have had to say. Today, we're counting down the 10 worst GM vehicle fails of the modern era. These are the cars that, for one reason or another, just didn't hit the mark. They were plagued with issues, were answers to questions nobody asked, or simply couldn't compete. Grab your popcorn, because this is going to be an interesting ride. Kicking off our list at number 10 is the Chevrolet SSR. On paper, this thing was a dream. A retro-styled convertible pickup truck with a powerful V8 engine. What's not to love? It looked like a beefed-up hot rod from the 50s and promised a unique driving experience. But when it hit the streets in 2003, the reality was a bit different. The SSR was built on a heavy SUV platform, which made it feel sluggish and clumsy, despite its big engine. It wasn't a great truck, because its bed was tiny and impracticable, and it wasn't a great sports car because of its weight. Add in a sky-high price tag, and you had a vehicle with a serious identity crisis. It was a cool concept, but the execution left buyers confused and ultimately uninterested. Coming in at number 9, we have the Saturn Ion. Saturn was originally created as GM's different kind of car company, meant to compete with Japanese imports. The Ion, introduced in 2003 to replace the successful SREs, was supposed to carry that torch. Unfortunately, it stumbled right out of the gate. The biggest complaints centered on its interior. The cabin was a sea of cheap, hard plastics that felt flimsy and looked dated almost immediately. The center-mounted instrument cluster was a quirky design choice that many drivers found distracting and unnatural. Top of that, early models were known for transmission problems and a generally unrefined driving experience. The Ion just couldn't match the quality and reliability of its competitors. And it represented a major step back for a brand that was supposed to be a step forward. Next up, at number 8, is a car that many people might have forgotten. The Cadillac Catera. In the late 90s, Cadillac wanted to attract younger buyers and compete with German luxury sedans like the BMW 3 Series. Their solution was to rebadge a European car, the Opel Omega, and market it as the Catera. The advertising campaign famously featured a cartoon duck and the tagline, "The Caddy that zigs." Unfortunately, the Catera mostly zagged. It was plagued by a host of reliability issues, especially with its engine and electronics. Repairs were expensive, and the performance just wasn't sharp enough to lure buyers away from its German rivals. Instead of being a sporty new direction for Cadillac, the Catera ended up being a costly lesson in what happens when you just slap a luxury badge on a mainstream car without doing the homework. Roll. Into the number 7 spot is the Hummer H2. When it launched in 2002, the H2 was an absolute sensation. It was big, bold, and screamed excess. Based on a heavy-duty GM truck platform, it offered the military-inspired looks of the original H1 Hummer, but with more creature comforts. The problem? It was all show and very little go. While it looked like an off-road beast, it was too wide and heavy for many trails. Its real Achilles heel, though, was its catastrophic fuel economy. Getting just 10 miles per gallon was common. When gas prices soared in the mid-2000s, the H2 suddenly looked less like a status symbol and more like a financial burden. It became the poster child for gas-guzzling excess, and its popularity plummeted as quickly as it had risen. At number 6, we find the Chevrolet Uplander and its siblings, the Saturn Relay, Pontiac Montana SV6. And Buick Terraza. GM marketed these as crossover sport vans, trying to disguise the fact that they were minivans by giving them a longer SUV-like nose. The market wasn't fooled. Buyers saw them for what they were, awkwardly styled minivans that didn't offer any real advantages over the competition. They lacked the clever features of rivals like the Honda Odyssey and Toyota Sienna, such as fold-flat third-row seats. They also suffered from subpar crash test ratings and interiors that felt a generation behind. This attempt to blend a minivan with an SUV resulted in a vehicle that was a master of none, and it failed to make a dent in the highly competitive family hauler market, rare, halfway through our list. And at number 5 is a car that promised so much but delivered so little, the Pontiac Fiero, launched in the 80s. The Fiero had a revolutionary design for a GM car, a mid-engine two-seater sports car. It looked fantastic, like a baby Ferrari, but the initial execution was a disaster. To save money, it was built with many off-the-shelf parts from other GM economy cars, including a weak four-cylinder engine known as the Iron Duke. It was slow and uninspiring to drive. Worse, early models gained a terrifying reputation for engine fires, a problem that led to a massive recall. While GM eventually fixed many of the issues and even offered a much better V6 model later on, the damage was done. The Fiero's fiery reputation overshadowed its brilliant design, and it was discontinued, becoming a classic what could have been story. Taking the number 4 spot is a truly infamous vehicle. The Pontiac Aztek. Often cited as one of the ugliest cars ever made, the Aztek was a bold attempt to create a versatile sport recreational vehicle. It was designed by a committee, and it showed, with its bizarre cladding, strange proportions, and a face only a mother could love. Its styling was incredibly polarizing. To be fair, it had some clever features, like a removable cooler in the center console and an optional camping package with an attachable tent. But its looks were just too much for most people to overcome. The Aztek has since developed a cult following, partly thanks to its role in the TV show Breaking Bad. But during its production run, it was a massive sales flop and a major embarrassment for GM's design department. Now, we're into our top 3, and at number 3, it's the Cadillac Cimarron. This is a legendary failure. In the early 1980s, Cadillac was desperate to offer a smaller, more fuel-efficient car to compete with European imports. Their solution was, to put it mildly, lazy. They took a basic, front-wheel drive Chevrolet Cavalier, added some leather seats, slapped on Cadillac badges, and jacked up the price. It was an insult to the brand's heritage. The public saw right through it. The Cimarron had the same weak engine and unrefined chassis as its economy car sibling. Did almost irreparable damage to Cadillac's reputation as a world-class luxury brand, a standard of the world. It taught GM a very hard lesson that you couldn't just put lipstick on a pig and call it a luxury car. Our runner-up for the worst modern GM fail, at number 2, is the widespread GM ignition switch scandal. This wasn't a single bad car, but a single, tiny, faulty part that had catastrophic consequences across millions of vehicles, including popular models like the Chevrolet Cobalt and Saturn Ion. The ignition switch could easily be jostled out of the run position, shutting off the engine while driving. This would disable the power steering, power brakes, and, most critically, the airbags. The company knew about this deadly defect for years before issuing a recall. The failure led to numerous crashes and tragic loss of life, resulting in massive fines, lawsuits, and a devastating blow to public trust. It stands as a grim reminder of how cutting corners on a part that costs less than $1 can have unimaginable human consequences. And that brings us to our number 1 worst GM vehicle fail of the modern era, the. And there you have it, our list of the 10 biggest GM fails. From bad designs to fatal flaws, these are the vehicles and decisions that General Motors probably wishes we'd all forget. But learning from mistakes is how you get better, and, thankfully, GM has produced plenty of amazing cars to make up for these blunders. What do you think? Did we miss any? What's your pick for the worst GM car? Let us know down in the comments. We love reading your feedback. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, Make sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.